Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Jason P. Carroll of Aptiv Index, Brian Thorpe at Wealth Tender, and Kate Guillen of Simplicity Ops. Today is a special episode of my series on artificial intelligence, and today's guest is Peter Dunn, co-founder and CEO of Feathery. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Chris Mills, the CEO of the Pacific Financial Group, for introducing me to Peter and the team at Feathery. Go check out their website at tpfg.com, where they help financial professionals become champions for their clients. All right, I'm excited to talk to Peter. And in full disclosure, Peter is a resale partner for Quick, so we've been working together for a while. So I'm excited to introduce him and have him on the show. Peter Dunn is the co-founder and CEO of Feathery, the platform that enables automated custodial account opening through a flexible, high-converting client experience. Before Feathery, Peter was a growth lead at Robinhood and completed his bachelor's and master's degree in artificial intelligence at Stanford. Peter, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Great to be here, Rich. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. So for those who haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Peter, I know I understand a lot about your business, but let's help our audience understand more about your business. How does your company help people?
Yeah, totally, Rich. Great question. And, I think you kind of introed Feathery a little bit, but we automate client onboarding for wealth managers. That includes the data intake process for the end clients and also the ultimate account opening process behind the scenes with their custodian, and also connecting with their tech stack, right? Their portfolio management systems like an Orion, their financial planning tools like an eMoney, Money Guide, their CRMs like a Salesforce or a Dynamics. So we're able to intake client data, synchronize that with their staff, and also get that data into their custodial end systems, of course, powered by Quick, and automate that entire onboarding process for the client.
So Peter, I don't know if this is a crowded market or not, but there's a lot of different new account opening solutions out there. So what led you to say we have a better solution, the different solution? What is it that's unique about Feathery that people should pay attention to?
Yeah, so I'd say like the biggest thing about Feathery that I think makes it stand out and is the reason why we have a different approach is really the flexibility of the tool. I think there are absolutely account opening solutions out there today, but they all tend to be pretty out of the box in the sense of, they'll give you some pre-built templates you can use for a certain workflow, but you have very limited control over actually customizing that workflow, customizing the logic behind the flow. Like maybe you want to add additional questions, you want to layer in your risk survey questionnaires. It gets very hard to do that, especially at scale. If you're a larger firm, you care about your custom branding. You really care about the client experience that you're trying to deliver, right? Like you want it to be unique to yourself, optimized. It gets really hard to do that with existing account opening solutions. Feathery was built as a no-code, low-code tool. What that means is you can, of course, start from our templates, but at the same time, we give you the full control, similar to a web designer in terms of, drag and dropping, customizing layout, styling, adding logic, connecting to custom APIs. The level of control you need to be able to scale as your firm continues to grow as well in terms of clients.
So when I started in this industry, 2002 is when we launched our business. A lot of the firms, I worked mostly with broker dealers at the time, but a lot of the firms were in the mindset of we're building it ourselves. We can do it ourselves best. Enter the 2010s, and we've got partners that came out and said, hey, we can give you a out of the box, off the shelf type solution, which often also meant a lot of professional services to customize it to their needs. I would argue, and I wonder if you see it this way, but I would argue that there's a shift in our industry. They want to go back to build it yourself without building it themselves, which is why I think Feathery is a really interesting tool, because you're giving them a way to have something out of the box, but also configure and control it in a more scalable manner. So I'm wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. That's I think that's a big reason why I started Feathery, is because I believe the industry as a whole is becoming more sophisticated with technology every day, and part of that means that they're able to be more self-serve with the tools that they use. There's no reason why a financial advisor or an operations specialist can't go into a tool, like learn the kind of basics and fundamentals of web design, and be able to actually really take their destiny into their own hands with the types of experiences that they're delivering. It's the reason why I started Feathery, and as a little bit more of some context. Before this, when I was at Robinhood, we built everything in house. So we took the opposite approach. We had a full engineering team dedicated to onboarding. We had product managers, designers, and it was actually really painful to build. And a big reason was because of the constant iteration and the changes that we had to make on the onboarding flow. My first few years at Robinhood, we ran, like 50 plus growth experiments. They were really painful, but they were also really valuable. We ended up doubling our conversion rate just from being able to optimize the flow, right? Like, depending on if you're iOS or Android, or, depending on like your financial history, we're going to personalize the flow, personalize the questions we're asking you. And because of that, I kind of was like, how can we give this Robinhood-like experience with the ability to move fast, but kind of serve that to the rest of the wealth industry?
All right, so I want to dive a little bit deeper on this low code, no code kind of framework, or this concept, because I think a lot of people, unless you're in tech, they don't really know those terms and really how it translates to them. So what does that mean to be, first of all, no code?
Yeah, of course. So being no code means you are able to build out maybe like a web experience, like a website or like a custom application, without having to actually write code yourself. You're able to use like a drag and drop framework, right? Just click and drag, point and click, to be able to build out a website or some application that would otherwise require like an actual developer to write code to do.
Okay, so it's a tool set that maybe has templates of existing designs, but really, I mean, like we do this with DocuSign, right? You open up a document, you drag a field over, now you can sign that form. You didn't have to
exactly.
program that field, you just had to drag it over. So it's similar to that kind of concept, right?
Yeah, DocuSign, right? You can drag it, you can like click on it, and then you have like the style bar opening on the right side, and then you can be like, I want to make my borders like a little thicker. I want to change my background colors. Like I want to bring in like my firm's branding into this whole design. It basically lets you do that without having to type it.
So then, what does low code mean?
Yeah, so low code is kind of the level above no code, in which like you might be doing something a little bit more complex somewhere, and so you might have to write a little bit of code, a little bit of basic code, maybe a little bit of JavaScript, or a little bit of a custom language. It's common with to list a few examples. Website builders like a Wix or Webflow. They allow you to maybe drag in like a custom code block, and then you can paste in your own HTML into that code block if you want to show something custom in the middle of your site, for example.
So does your product require people to do low code?
Not at all. Not at all. So it's very much no code. You can build all of your designs and experiences without writing any code. I'd say about 85-90% of our wealth management clients don't touch any code at all.
Okay.
It's really that kind of like last 10% of like really like more complex use cases where like someone actually wants to be able to write code. Maybe you have some really custom like logic or calculations you're trying to do. Maybe you're trying to, call some like, talk to some custom system, on your back end that we don't have a native integration to already, where people start caring about writing code a little bit more.
Okay. So I don't want to give people the impression that you're a website builder, but the web is the tool, right? HTML is the tool that you're living in. And it sounds to me that you're helping customers build out web-based experiences to perform the workflows, the document management things that they're trying to do in their business. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think of it as also forms to an extent, but very much like kind of digital web-based forms for us. So imagine, like a Google Forms, right? Like a Google form is a digital web-based form to use to collect information. Uh, Maybe similar to that, but you're able to build out like the exact type of client experience you want for that form. You're able to embed it into your website or host on Feathery if you want. And then that whole kind of flow is automated behind the scenes.
Okay. So you're helping people build nicer, more user-friendly new account opening and client onboarding type experiences in the framework and the style that they want with very little to no code to do it.
Absolutely. A common workflow that we follow is sometimes customers will come to us and they already have the design in mind that they want for this intake experience, right? And they'll show us like a Figma file that they have, and they're like, "Oh, this is how we want it." And one of the most effective ways, we've been able to get prospects like that aha moment is, we'll have our services team recreate like a page of like that design that they brought to us in Feathery. And with every other tool, you're gonna have to make trade-offs. It's probably gonna look nothing like kind of the initial experience that you envisioned, but with Feathery, because they can see that like one-to-one replication in Feathery, you're like, oh crap, this tool can actually like let me realize my vision for what I want my onboarding flows to do.
Yeah. Look, I had that aha moment a year ago when we first started talking because you and your partner were talking to us with a customer. You said, "Hey, can we call your APIs and generate forms within the system?" And it was like a week later, maybe two. You're like, "Yeah, it's done. It's built." It was so fast. I was so jealous of how fast you guys could move. But I think that's really the benefit of a platform like yours, right? It's speed and its agility to do things.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our platform, we built out the fundamentals that allow us to move faster as well, right? Like if we want to build out a new integration or something, we already have the components. We already have like the kind of like under the hood, like back end logic that does like the network request and stuff. So it's easy for us to move quickly here in terms of building out new integrations and new components on top of the platform.
All right, let me ask you a challenging question. What can't you do? What is hard? What is a good use case for Feathery?
Yeah. So one obvious thing is we can't do quick, right? It's why I think we're such synergistic partners. We are very much focused on like the software experience, the kind of digital experience of creating these customer journeys. But we don't get into a lot of the business logic of wealth management. Right. So like we don't do any financial planning on our system. We talk to your financial planning tools and we'll get your data in and out of the tool, but we're not going to do any financial planning ourselves. We're not going to do any portfolio management. We're not going to do any management of the forms that, the custodial forms, the, insurance and financial forms that you're using day to day. Like we don't have that field mapping in our system, but we're able to leverage best in class tools like Quick to be able to accomplish that. Like we're just responsible for getting the data in and out from the client to the systems as efficiently as possible, and kind of transforming it where it needs to be.
So I was talking to a customer today that is not happy with the different compliance tools that are available to them, and they're thinking about building their own with a partner. Would somebody come to you and say, "Hey, we need a compliance tool"? Is that something you would build, or would you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know we started this conversation on account opening, but the cool thing about Feathery is I think you really unlock kind of the true value when you start thinking about your data intake solutions across the board beyond just account opening, right? Like let's talk about client servicing, let's talk about offboarding, let's talk about compliance. Most of an advisor's regular interactions with a client involve some sort of data gathering. And there's no reason why it just has to be during the onboarding process. Like for like a compliance, workflow, you could absolutely be, intaking information from the customer, powering the tool with like, compliance forms from a quick, bring in your own custom forms that need to be filled out and processed. That's all totally possible.
All right. So far we've been talking about what you can do, but we haven't talked about artificial intelligence. Where does AI fit into your business? Because what is the AI doing?
Yeah, totally. So the biggest place, so there are two places where AI fits into our products. I'll talk about the first place and then go to the second. So the first place is we actually automate the process of converting kind of more traditional PDF paper-based forms into a Feathery form. We actually have a free online tool you can check out at feathery.ai. It's very simple. You upload the PDF and then you click convert, and then our AI system runs in the background, and then it outputs you a Feathery form, digital Feathery form based on the PDF that you entered into it. The cool thing is, we've actually digitized a number of, the kind of quick provided PDFs. So to help customers skip the need to kind of build it again in house and connect it to the quick form. So basically, we run some of the quick forms through this process. We are able to build up our library of like digital Feathery forms connected to the quick forms in an automated way using this tool.
So you're giving them a better experience. Look, nobody wants to look at the form. You're giving them a web-based experience to capture the data and still marry it to the PDF on the back end for signature and
yeah, exactly. And like a lot of times they'll bring in like their custom forms, right? And so Quick will obviously like build up like the field mapping there, but then on our side we can just feed it through an AI model. We'll get out the Feathery version of that form, and then they don't have to manually build it again themselves in Feathery.
So you said there's a second place that AI is being used. That was one.
Yeah, so that was the first place. Actually, the smaller use case, the bigger use case is actually document intelligence in the Feathery products. One example, right? Like your customers are bringing you their custodial holding statements from their old custodian, like their Schwab or their Fidelity. And today, you might be reading through these documents manually, grabbing like their holdings, their ticker symbols, market caps, cost bases, etc. And then you're manually entering these into your financial planning tool, your eMoney or your Money Guide Pro. Feathery Document Intelligence basically uses AI to read your documents, pulls out the relevant information based on the information that you want to pull out that you define in plain English. And then using the same integrations that power our forms, you can send this data into your end systems. So you can automate the process of extracting data from the holding statements and getting them into your eMoney or your Money Guide.
Okay. So given your background was AI, what was your first idea of using AI in business?
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, so at the beginning, it was actually less of I was thinking less about like kind of like language and document processing. It was more like computer vision. Um, Especially when I was still at Stanford, I was actually doing research, computer vision research in the medical field. So like image processing for like X-rays, scans, being able to automatically detect like tumors and other defects in the human body. Like that was the type of work I was doing. Obviously, these days with the development of large language models, the focus has become a lot more on natural language rather than like the computer vision piece. But at the beginning and back in the day, computer vision was actually the most, I guess, exciting field of AI development.
I think a lot of people hear AI and they immediately think ChatGPT because consumers have grabbed onto that. But really, AI has been developed over a long period of time, and there's different segments. There's machine learning, computer vision you're talking about. There's all sorts of different things. But computer vision is also really, really interesting. Is that what Google was training to figure out what's a cat versus a dog? Is that what computer vision is? How would you
Yeah,
describe what
exactly.
computer vision does?
If you've seen Silicon Valley, it's like a hot dog, not a hot dog. It's basically taking an image in and then identifying. There's different flavors of computer vision. Of course, there's classification, like what is in this image. Is it a cat or a dog? Is it a hot dog or is it not a hot dog? There's object detection, right? And also this year, self-driving cars, super exciting to see all the development there. But, computer vision is, everything that they're powered off of, right? Object detection. Is there a pedestrian incoming? Is there someone running across the street? Is there another car coming towards you? And at what speed? That's all computer vision. When you're opening your iPhone and it uses, face recognition to unlock the phone, it's using computer vision to verify that you are who you are. KYC, like know your customer. Like you have to take a picture of yourself, take a selfie holding your ID. That's all AI powered computer vision.
Okay, I'm going to ask a really dumb question because it's just a curiosity that I have, and I think others might have. When you go to a website and it says, prove you're not a robot, prove you're a human, click all of the images that have a stoplight in it. Are we training somebody else's computer vision model by answering the questions?
Maybe, but I'm more willing to bet that the model's already trained enough that it doesn't need like kind of the user input at that point to be able to, fine tune it. Like they've already created like their own custom data set where like they know the answers to every single data point in the set.
Yeah.
And then like they'll train on that, they'll get to a good point. And then when they actually deploy the model for like use with consumers, oftentimes at that point, they don't have to. That being said, with things like LLMs, where like data still is like a very big problem for them in terms of continuing development, if you don't opt out, there is a good chance that they might still be using your data. Obviously, with Feathery, by default, we never use your data for any sort of training or third-party usage. But for a lot of the LLMs out there, you kind of have to look into terms and conditions a little bit to make sure you're not, it's not being trained on.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for you guys. So you are using LLMs in your model?
We are using LLMs as part of like the overall model, but we've ensured that like none of the data is being used to actually like train on your information.
Okay. So Peter, one of my often asked questions when I get to meet somebody who's got a degree in artificial intelligence and spent a lot of time studying it and working with it, what is something you know that the rest of us don't know about artificial intelligence?
I think well, I mean, like there's a few like tangents I could maybe go down. I think one is maybe that even though like it looks like it's thinking and it's reasoning, it's actually not doing that. It's just really good at pretending to be like thinking and reasoning about things. So I mean, these LLMs, they use like token prediction, right? Like they'll basically determine like what is the highest likelihood like next like character to like output in the sequence of letters that they're outputting to you. And then they'll output that. And so under the hood, it's, just like a bunch of like numbers and calculations that combine to, create this like very human-like response that they're sending you. But at the end of the day, they're just very good at replicating words and phrases and sentences that they've already seen through the massive amounts of documents that were processed. Mm-hmm. Whereas for humans, like when we were babies and we were learning, it was much more from like first principles, like us understanding the world and then be able to formulate that into words and sentences to convey the ideas and emotions that we're already feeling. So I think it's a little nuanced, but I think there's a little bit of a difference. I think the difference is like LLMs are really great at like giving you like very nice sounding things, like sounding like very professional. But then the area of biggest development today with these AI models is reasoning, like getting them to actually like think through deeper things that like might be a little more intuitive for a human, because that's where we started from. But for LLMs, it was like the cart before the horse. They started talking, and now they're trying to think as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've had that experience with ChatGPT where I asked it to do complex math, and I learned that ChatGPT doesn't do math.
Yeah.
It's an interpretive thing, right? It's predicting text, so it's not really performing math. But I wanted it to start reasoning with itself, of saying, did I leave out a variable? Am I actually including all the numbers that have been going along with this process to get to a calculation? And I was building a ROI, return on investment calculator. I just had this idea. I'm like, hey, let's do this. And the problem with ChatGPT was it kept giving me different results for the same inputs.
Right. Yeah. Because like, it's not actually like kind of seeing like, oh, like here are the numbers. Like, let me do some math under the hood and return to the result. It's like, oh, here are the numbers. Like, let me think about like the types of like numbers and, sentences I've seen in the past. And like, oh, I've typically seen like this number kind of being returned as a response maybe to inputs that have these numbers, and it'll give you something.
Yeah.
So it's like a entirely different type of reasoning behind it. It's also why, by the way, we're so invested in document intelligence. Like I know like agents are, very big today. Right. And a lot of kind of the tech industry is pushing like autonomous agents who can, like be autonomous salespeople for you, autonomous support agents. But I think for me, at least, there's still a big question as to like how far this reasoning can go, like how much it can actually correct itself and check itself. But document intelligence is one of those things where it requires AI, but it doesn't require a model to be a genius at reasoning through things. It just requires it to be really good at reading things off documents with high accuracy, which I believe we've already been able to reach.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me that his company deployed a bot and started talking to customers and relieving them of payments. Like, oh, you don't have to make your payment this month. No, wait, no, you don't have the authority to say that to the client.
Yeah.
That's not a good outcome.
It is crazy. Or for example, Salesforce released like Agent Force, and I saw a comment which I thought was funny, which is like, I mean, they released Agent Force and then they hired like 1,000 people to sell this thing, and then it's kind of like, well, if the agent is so good, like, shouldn't it be able to almost like sell itself at that point? Where you still need so many humans to do it. And so kind of the nuance between like, what still needs to rest with a human versus like what can be automated with an AI bot, which absolutely there are things that can do that. It is still like very, very nuanced.
Do you have any like long-term concerns or fears or guesses that AI is going to turn out in a negative way?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is I mean it, there's another saying where it's like you always kind of like overestimate like how much can be accomplished like in a year, but you underestimate how much can be accomplished in like on the 3 to 5 year horizon. That's true of most technology hype cycles as well, including AI, in my opinion. So I think like we're still kind of like in that like initial hype cycle. Like I think AI has a ton of like very real value. I think we're being a little ambitious at the moment as to kind of the use cases that we can like put AI into, but it is like a fact that the use cases are increasing. The complexity of the use cases are also increasing. It's just at a slower pace than any of us might think it is. So like I think in the next year or so, like my take is like it's not going to look like that much different from where we are now. But I think in 5 years, right, like there probably will be a lot more automation. It might require more breakthroughs, in these fundamental models, but I think it is inevitable given like the amount of focus and resources we're dedicating towards it.
I think that's a really healthy way to look at it, Peter, because what I think you're saying is the models and the large language models and the advancement of AI is further ahead of the use cases. And a lot of people have said this. It's a solution looking for a problem. And what's going to happen is it takes companies like ours to figure out how do we actually use that technology to further our capabilities and solve the problems of our customers. AI doesn't know the problems of our specific customers in wealth management, for example. It might have some idea of general problems, but it doesn't know our specifics because it's not talking to our customers the way that we are. So we have to take that AI tech and use it.
We're the translation layer, essentially. Yeah. Like there's this technology, and then there are these customers, right? Like who have problems, and we have to be the translation layer to apply that technology to the customer. And as much as we want it to happen, right? Like this isn't something that happens like over the course of like a month or even 2 months. It takes time to understand people and their problems and to be able to embed technology, especially as powerful and sometimes unpredictable as AI, into it.
Yeah. All right. So, sorry, one other philosophical question about your business I want to ask. Do you think it's important for customers to know that you're AI driven or that you're built on AI?
Yeah, I think it depends, because when we're talking like account opening and client onboarding, there's no AI, right? Like you don't really pass through the AI piece of the tool unless like you have a specific use case around document intelligence. Once we're talking about pieces that involve AI, I think absolutely, because I think there are like obviously caveats that come with it, right? Like AI is not like guaranteed like every single time will always give you the exact response you want, right? We can't guarantee you like 95% plus for a certain use case based on like kind of historical results we've seen, but AI inherently is a little bit of a black box processing under the hood, and customers have to kind of be aware of that. So I think transparency is important. But at the same time, not every use case needs to be powered by AI. So just kind of being aware of that as well.
Yeah, I'll give an anecdotal story for people. Sometimes I'll take sales calls that we record, take the transcript, run it in AI, and have it summarize it. And then I'll say, it'll give me some customer quotes. I'll go see if those customers said those things in the transcript. And sometimes they don't. The AI is like, well, I think it meant this, so I'm going to give it a quote.
Right.
So yeah, you have to be cautious of that. Look, as we wrap up, I have another question for you, but what is the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few ways. You can email us anytime at support@feathery.io. You can also go to our website, feathery.io. And we have a chat bot. You can talk to us there. You can fill out the demo form and request a demo. So there are a few ways depending on what you're looking for.
Awesome. Great. So here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
Yeah, I'd say without a doubt, it would be my co-founder, Zach Hahn. Zach and I started working together about a few years back, and having a partner in crime, especially as a founder, is so impactful. In the sense of like, when it's just you yourself, like, you might be great, but everyone has weaknesses, and it's really hard to kind of be able to spot your own weaknesses and point them out and work on them. But having someone who's kind of like a counterbalance to you, maybe has different strengths and weaknesses, and being able to kind of give each other feedback, iterate, it's made me recognize kind of like my biggest areas for improvement as a leader, that I know for a fact I never would have been able to tell without Zach. So it's something that I will always be grateful to him for.
Man, thank you for reminding me of the value of a great partner, because you're right. You're absolutely right. A great partner sees you in a different way. My COO and I are partners in our company. Now, I co-founded it with my mom, but she's retired. And so Dawn is effectively, my partner in crime. We are yin and yang. I mean, we are very different in so many ways. And it's such a compliment because we can call each other out from totally different perspectives and grow together as a result. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I want to give a big thank you to Peter Dunn, co-founder and CEO of Feathery, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Peter's website at feathery.io. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of the Customer Wins. Peter, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Rich. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.